When you get out there and do a heap of wheeling, things do go wrong. Now, this video is all about where I went wrong. I rolled the race car and did a whole heap of damage to the panel work and that. But there's a heap of things that I want to talk about in this, along with why I rolled and try and unpack that for you. I want to talk about what do you do when your engine gets hydraulicked, so full of oil or full of water if you've done a water crossing. So I want to unpack that and how to deal with that situation. So this engine got full of oil from the engine when it was on its side. So let's just roll through a bit of footage. Now, we never got any actual footage of the rollover, which so frustrating. But anyway, I think you'll get the idea. We've got a couple of testimonies from some of my mates who saw it happen. So let's watch this for a bit and see what we can learn from my stuff up.
When you're driving such a car like a Pro Mod Super Tourer in this event, you have to get quite creative on the lines you take, because you're not quite capable. You got 35s, you have limitations to your car. If you had coilovers and 40-inch tyres, you can basically roll over everything. It pays to pick lines. It pays to look at the track and find ways that your vehicle can get to the top. In Matt's case, he chose a line which was working really well for the car he had, and just happened to turn a bit too soon, and it ended up in a slight rollover. But they're the risks you take when you drive such a less capable vehicle. No slight on the driver, it's just what you have to do with the vehicle you have.
So we were up watching Matty start, and they gave him the start, and Navigator got out, and Matt started reversing. We said, okay, what's going on here? So he then took a different line off to the right. And so looked up, we were virtually standing about 10 metres from that line, and we thought, what a great idea. There was a nice clean run. So he started going up there. The navvy was getting all set with what he might have needed, and as he was turning around to watch is when the rollover happened. But what occurred was he hit a rock or went over a rock, and the rock wasn't steady. It may have had a concave shape, and he went on the left-hand side of it. On acceleration, it pushed him across and then laid him on his side. And we all went, after we stopped laughing, we went, oh gee, we hope Matty's okay. But he was. We could smell fuel, and Matty could as well. So we watched him get out and knew that everything was okay.
Oh, the line was pretty game. It wasn't the line that everyone else took. He'd seen a bit of a track on the right hand side, a bit advantageous, but he thought he'd give it a go, and it looked pretty good. Like he got style points for it.
There was lots of smoke when we started it up again. Did you see that?
Oh, there was smoke coming out everywhere.
I think every cylinder had was full of oil.
Oh, it was. It was. Yeah, put on a good show.
That's what we're here for. So those guys saw it happen, and there's a bit of their thoughts on it. Now, I've got a slightly different take on it because I was in the car when it rolled, and also upon reflection and looking at the footage and walking around thinking about it, I think something slightly different happened to what they've suggested. So I'm going to start unpacking that for you. Now, if you're a company and you'd like to be sponsoring these videos, you should reach out to me. So this is AutoFix. Trevor runs a company that sells scan tools like this. So you can carry that in your vehicle, any modern vehicle that suits. And if you have a breakdown out there on the trails, well, you can plug that in, and at least you can clear the codes and start dealing with the issues you've got. Now, if you're a company that would like to sponsor that sort of segment in these videos, reach out and let us know. So right here in the front of the vehicle, in front of that tyre, right where that mouse pointer is, that rock there, I think, is the actual culprit. But there's other elements going on. Up here, just these rocks that I'm covering here now, and just behind my legs there, that was the ledge that the front was trying to climb up. Now this is steep country, and so the front end's very unloaded. I'm on power, so there's a natural tendency to keep the front end unloaded from that perspective. I've got both lockers in, I'm naturally aired down, all of that sort of stuff going on. When I've got up to this section here with the front end, the front tyres have had a tendency to want to push to the left. And then this rock here, when the back left tyre has come up to that rock there has acted, in my opinion, like a fulcrum point and just helped tip the front across to the left, which naturally puts me sideways on the hill. And then we have where this gentleman's standing here, there's a great big hole. It's probably that sort of depth. And once the front left wheel fell into that, well, it was all over. And it was a very slow rollover, such as it happened. So let's continue on. We'll unpack some more. What happened, normally in this situation, my navvy would have come down, hooked up the winch, we would have winched the vehicle back onto its wheels in that moment and just carried on, kept racing and kept doing the stage, and we probably would have finished the stage. We actually, later in this cliffhanger event, we did actually virtually roll onto our side, but we were on winch at the time, so I was able to keep the vehicle from completely going over by winching in, and we just pulled it back on its wheels and kept racing. It's quite common in this event. But when I went over, I instantly smelt raw petrol, and I didn't know what that was from. I'd just done big modifications to the car, as you possibly know, new fuel cell and so on. Now in the fuel cells we have what we call rollover protection, so there's systems so that fuel can't leak out of your fuel tank. I've actually got 3 of those in the vehicle, so there was no way I was going to get raw fuel pouring out of the tank, but I didn't know, you know, I might have ruptured a fuel line, who knows what could have happened. So I instantly isolated the car. I've got 2 isolators right there beside me in the cab. When I say isolate, part of the regulations to race is we've got big switches in the car so that we can turn them, and every electrical circuit in the car gets turned off. The reason I've got 2, I've got a 12 volt and a 24 volt system. The 24 volt system runs my winch and all of that sort of componentry. I isolated the car and jumped out because I didn't want to go up in flames. I'm not racing to get hurt. What the problem with that is, I then can't get back into the car until the car is in a position to be safe. As you can see, it's upside down on a hill, it's all pretty nasty. If I get in that vehicle and it's not secured in one way, I can't get back into the seat and put my harnesses on. There's no way I can do that. I'm virtually be doing it upside down. So I wasn't happy to get back in the car. So once I was out of the car, I said to the recovery crew, we're done. We're not going to complete this stage anymore. I need to be recovered properly. So I did have a number of people just, coming up and saying, oh, you'll be right, just jump in and do this and do that. I get what they're saying, and maybe they'd do that, but I don't. I just don't see the point of putting myself at danger and all of that for no real gain or advantage. So let's continue on. We're starting to get into the recovery point. The gentleman in the fluoro vest, they're all the officials obviously, and I'm still there with my helmet on and everything, just so people can't see me blushing. Okay, that's my navvy Shannon. He's in the black suit there. So he only was navvying for this stage, just as that's a whole nother story. You can see I've got the Factor 55 tree trunk protector, and I've placed that around a section of the chassis that as the vehicle rights itself, that strap will be able to rotate with that process. Okay.
Once you've got some weight on, I'm happy to jump in and isolate it and get this winch going.
Well, I get your front winch hooked up so when it comes over.
So in this situation, we've got lots of people giving lots of information, which is really important. In my head, at the end of the day, I'm overseeing the whole recovery, and I feel a great sense of responsibility to it, not for the car's reason, for the people that are involved. Saying that, I allowed the recovery guys to run the recovery. So I wasn't there bossing people around or anything like that, but I wasn't going to let anything that I wasn't happy with happen that I felt could hurt anybody else. So I was trying to keep a very close eye on who was doing what and what was going on. But just listen to the number of people that are throwing ideas into the conversation. And I think it's really important when we find ourselves in recovery situations, oftentimes, just to shut up. There's so much going on in these situations. Just let those who have got the experience and have taken the leadership roles to do the job. And if they want your help, be available to give them a hand.
Fuel?
Yeah. That's all good.
Yeah, get some weight on
Okay,
it.
so now you can see that top winch line's got weight on it. And I've just told the recovery guys I'm going to go under the winch rope and get into the vehicle so everything's stopped and stationary. And the reason we can't hook my winch up yet is because the car's isolated, so the winch won't operate at all. You can see in that angle how the car's actually almost upside down, and it's just the rocks holding it up there.
Who's going to control this recovery?
So that was a really good comment. Did you hear that? I don't know who it was, but somebody called out, who's going in control of this recovery? Excellent question to ask. I was in the car at this stage. Now, I want you to watch as best you can. The footage doesn't really show it, but if you watch carefully, you can see it. Maybe replay this bit of footage. I'm in the car, but I'm actually standing up on the ground at the moment, standing up inside the car across the roof, if that makes sense, because I can't get into my seat. So as the vehicle's coming onto its wheels, I'm having to walk inside the car to get into the driver's seat. So when I got in there, I looked at the layout of the car, which I know pretty well. I looked for handholds, which I've got hand grips in the car. I looked for where I can put my feet so that I could walk with the car and end up in the driver's seat. So just try and watch that front windscreen and see if you can see what I'm talking about. You can see Shannon's directing me as I'm driving the winch because I can't see anything. We've now got my winch on and the other winch. Now you can see me sort of walking around inside the car there. What a miserable arrangement. Okay. Have you ever rolled a four-wheel drive? I'd love you to tell us the story down below, and if you've got video of it, I'd love to see that and maybe even do one of these reacts videos to that as well. So now we've got the car to that position. I get the car secured, I get into my harness. Before this bit of footage we see now, I actually harnessed up and made myself safe. Because I'm in a roll cage, I'm in a proper race, that was the safest place I could be. If a winch rope broke now and I went roaring off down the hill, that was by far the safest place for me to be. I can't get the car started because the engine's hydrolocked, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So effectively what I'm doing is winching out and allowing the vehicle to roll backwards. We've got that bottom vehicle, the Land Cruiser down the bottom there, is winching me as well. Okay, so we're out of that situation. Obviously, we've cut this up to try and move through the video to the critical bits that are going to help us all learn. Let's explain what a hydrolock situation is. So in your engine, if you don't know, you've got a piston that goes up and down and inside the cylinder. So when it comes all the way up, that's when you have your explosion, then you have your power stroke, which makes power from the motor. If that space is full of a liquid or anything that doesn't compress, the piston can't come up, therefore the engine can't rotate. Now, if you force the engine to rotate, you can bend critical components inside the engine, and it does catastrophic damage to the motors. So we don't want that to happen. So what we're doing in this situation on a petrol engine is we're pulling all the spark plugs out, and you can watch in a second, you watch the carnage that causes. If you're in a diesel engine, you will pull, if you've got glow plugs, you'll pull glow plugs out. If you have to, you'll pull injectors out. You've basically got to find a way of relieving the pressure inside the cylinder so that we can get the oil or the water out of it. Now, I've recovered numerous hydraulic motors that have sucked water, motors that have done oil. I've done this multiple times, but I want you to look at what I'm doing, or should I say not doing, in the next bit of footage. So now we've got Geordie in here, and he and the other mates, they're all going to start pulling the spark plugs out.
All right. Yeah, you're a good fella. Well done. Thanks, guys. Hey? No, that's enough. Did you want that rag? Half the stump's in there. Holy hell.
This is a 4.5 litre 6-cylinder. So you can see how the oil got squirted out of the cylinders. Now it would looks to me like pretty much every cylinder was full of oil. Like it it really did get in this motor. Now sometimes the motor can be upside down and oil doesn't get in there. It just depends on the motor. Now notice that I wasn't doing the job. One of the things when we're racing is we're wearing a fireproof race suit. What happens if I go and get engine oil all over that? It's no longer fireproof. If I have a fire later on, that suit is contaminated and with flammable material. So that's the main reason I don't get involved in the mechanical work. So I always feel a little bit humbled and honoured when people want to work on my car like they did here. So a big thanks to Cole, Sean and James, who just pitched in and made this happen, along with Geordie and whoever else came along and just spun spanners, gave directions, helped, lent tools, whatever. It's always appreciated. It's one of the fun parts of doing this sort of racing is that camaraderie and that teamwork. Now that the engine's been full of oil, let's watch it get started. Gotta love a Toyota. There you go. So that's all the oil inside the cylinders, inside the exhaust manifold.
Smoke hazard!
I'm an idiot.
Smoke hazard!
This vehicle now is going for another rebuild. So I've just finished rebuilding it, roll it on its side. It's going to come back different again. Anyway, stay tuned. Let me know in the comments down below, have you had a vehicle hydrolock? Have you been in this sort of situation where you've rolled a vehicle, had it hydrolock or full of water in a water crossing? Tell us your stories, we want to know about it. I'm Mad Matt, stay safe on the trails.